is a repeat guest because he gets it, and I want him to share with you the ideas about what's going on between Gaza and Israel right now, which is basically all Israel but the Gaza Strip. Asaf Romrosky's PhD, Executive Director of Scholars for Peace in the Middle East, joining me now on the live line. Good morning, Asaf.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, as always.
Yes, thank you for being here. So what's going on with Bibi saying, I'm done now, I'm just going to crush you and take it all?
Well, this is and let's contextualize what we're seeing here. The objective of the war has been from the beginning, as you and I have discussed for months now, basically devastating Hamas or not destroying Hamas and releasing the hostages. Since we last spoke, and we've seen there's been a lot of changes, namely Trump's visit to the region and the release of the last Israeli-American Idan Alexander. And so there's pressure mounting from Washington that you're seeing now as a result of aid coming into Gaza. There have been fallacious reports coming out of the UN, no surprise, Tom Fletcher's, chief humanitarian officer saying that babies are starving and people, and there's no aid going into Gaza. All a lot of hogwash, and not true. But at the same time, Netanyahu is feeling the pressure to move this along. Netanyahu's argument and Netanyahu's military cabinet has argued that the more military pressure there is on Gaza, that will create more pressure on Hamas to release the hostages. The flip side of that argument is that they're used as pawns, and there's also, and this is where the hostage families are arguing, that you're endangering our families and not putting pressure. That being said, you've seen, even with Trump's visit to the region, and we the U.S., we backed out a bit regarding the Houthis. Missiles are coming into Israel. Hamas is still able to they're kind of throwing these Hail Marys as far as Israel goes. And so this next goal, stated goal, according to Israeli reports, is that they want to take over 75% of Gaza. All of this comes to really the big question is, what does the day after tomorrow look like? And the unfortunate reality is, and this is where I think some of the tension lies between Washington and Jerusalem, has to do with the fact that there is no body or no entity, there's no Arab government that would take over Gaza. So absent that, the responsibility of Gaza, and so Bibi can look in the eye to the southern community of Israel, it's going to be left to the state of Israel and the IDF. And so that is part of the challenge that they're looking at. And the ultimate challenge, of course, is how and can he disentangle whatever civilian parts, whatever there is, there's not much, from Hamas. And that's where he's trying to put the pressure to move this along in order to create a safe zone. And that's that's where we are.
Well, we haven't gotten all the American hostages back. We didn't get the dead ones.
No, that's correct. I mean, that's absolutely correct.
I am not happy.
No, nobody should be happy. It's not a happy situation. I mean, we are guesstimating. So the release of Idan Alexander was as a result of pressure that came in through us here in the United States, not through the Israelis. That was done through other interlocutors, through Adam Boehler and Witkoff and company. So that being said, you're looking at 58 still left, and the guesstimation is that 21 to 23 are still alive, and the rest obviously are not, but they still have to be brought home. There was a report that came out of out of the Prime Minister's office yesterday that they're expecting some kind of major announcement to be made about the hostages in the next day or so.
Well, here's my thing. I know that the families are like, you're putting the hostage families, you're putting our loved ones in danger. What do you think they're in right now? I mean, do you think they're at a spa? I mean, what do they think? I mean, I would want them they're being used as leverage. I know this. That's why Hamas won't give them back, because they feel like if they do, it's game over, and they're not wrong. But I don't understand a family saying, well, they might hurt my family member. Your family member's probably dead already. So at this point, we've just got to crush these bugs who think that terrorism is the way you go about getting what you want, and let them know once and for all, it's never going to work.
Oh, no doubt about that. I mean, look, and I would take it even further. The mounting evidence that we have from the released hostages as a result of the evidence of the torture and the abuse. I mean, we know what. Yeah, well, we know what's going on there. They're in the dungeons of hell, and this has been going on for at least now over 600 days, and it's unconscionable. I mean, these families have been suffering, and at the same time, let's not forget that, who started this war. Let's not forget where, the head of the Hydra is, being the Islamic Republic of Iran, who has been funding and sponsoring Hamas. Let's not forget that there's Qatari money involved in all of this. And so, one cannot forget all the patrons who allowed 10/7 to come about altogether. So, yes, pressure, something needs to give. This is not a sustainable situation.
Right. And what bothers me the most is the way that they came in on October 7th. So many years ago, these people have been in captivity all of these years, tortured worse than the El Salvador gang members are probably being treated over in El Salvador. It's been so long that I'm sure that they've just given up. They've lost their minds. They're just expecting their daily starvation and rape and bludgeoning and perhaps death. They're probably hoping for death at this point, because hope for freedom seems nil. Because Hamas is not the type of, I love that you used Hail Mary, right? By the way, that cracked me up because of their religion. But
yes,
it's impossible for me to see a way that we don't eliminate them in order for it to not happen again. Because all of the stuff that they had when they went in on that day in October was high-tech stuff. I mean, these hang gliders and things that they used to get over the barriers, they didn't make that themselves.
No. This, let's be clear. I mean, 10/7 did not come in a vacuum. It took them 20 years to build these terror tunnels, the mazes, the amount of money, the infrastructure, the ventilation systems. Mm-hmm. I mean, everything that they did, and they prepared for this. Not to mention the amount. I mean, these were trained. These are trained soldiers, or guns for hire. I mean, they know exactly what they were doing. They got the money. They got the arms. I mean, this is something that should be taken very seriously. Part of the failure of 10/7 is that the unfortunate reality is that Israel ignored what was happening in Gaza for close to 20 years, and the policy that they had to date was what they called mowing the grass. And every time they did that, they thought that would create a sense of calm and allow them to come back. But that all these mini operations, or what the Israeli military apparatus calls a war between wars, lasted 3 to 4 weeks, and then we would go in and out, and that would be it. That was not sustainable. And so that still allowed them to build an infrastructure of terror that has been, this is one of the longest wars Israel has ever fought. To my mind, this is Israel's second war of independence. And you have hostages who are suffering daily. And so, again, the objective of the war was from the get-go, the eradication of Hamas. And there cannot be, and this is, I think, part of the mixed messages that are coming about, through the Qataris and maybe through some people in the administration, that Hamas has a role in the day after tomorrow. That cannot fly. Israel will not live with that, and that is an unsustainable and an unrealistic situation.
So, what do we do? Tell me the answer, Asaf.
Wish I had good answers. I think that, look, I think that, the coalition, there's a solid relationship between Washington and Jerusalem. I think that there has to be as much pressure to move Hamas out. I think the big question is establishing whatever entity is going to be there in this day after tomorrow. It cannot be the Palestinian Authority. It cannot be Hamas. And so there has to be a question of who is that body that's going to ensure the safety of Israeli citizens. And if it's the state of Israel, which, again, is a huge bag of problems, and a can of worms that not everybody wants to open up. But part of the failure of 10-7 was that Israel left no military presence and lost human intelligence once they disengaged from Gaza back in 2005. So they have to create that. And whether it's, with support with the Egyptians, Jordanians, the Saudis, or any other Arab entity, or, now we have American contractors who are distributing aid, there has to be some kind of entity that Israel can trust. Otherwise, you're going to see, they're going to be there in perpetuity.
Well, they let them come in as immigrants because they accept everybody. Every walk of life you can think of lives in Israel. And I'm talking from everywhere, every color. Israel is like the U.S. Anybody's welcome as long as they're legal. And so the fact that they let the immigrants come in, the people who took over the Gaza Strip took advantage of that. They multiplied their numbers, and then they just decided it was their land, and they started fighting. And I think a lot of other places could take a really clear lesson from this, don't you?
Agreed, 100%. I mean, look, let's be clear. These are terrorists, Hamas. Mm-hmm. I mean, on the other hand, yes, Israel is a melting pot as far as Israeli society, giving freedoms to all three monotheistic religions as far as access to holy sites and whatnot. But, this is a serious security risk on on the safety of Israelis. And it's not only in Israel. Last week we just saw, a deranged, son of an immigrant, of Hispanic descent who now murdered two staffers from the Israeli embassy at an event at the Jewish Museum in Washington, who was inspired what he defined, in all the videos, defining the saying in the name of Palestine, the name of Gaza. These are the same messages that you and I have been discussing. It's been happening on American college campuses. These words have actions, and they actually mean it. And so we should take these as serious threats, and we should take them very seriously.
Yeah, well, mainstream media seems to think it's their free speech, and I'm like, you are not an American citizen. You do not get due process. You do not get the same rights as an American citizen. We allowed you to come here as a guest to be educated, not to come over here and start whatever it is you're starting, which is basically the hate of Jews in this country. And for some reason, we've got so many people who are American who decided to put on the little headgear and start acting like wild animals and run around and start fires and chase people and put their lives at risk and become part of this movement. And they have no idea what they are representing, and yet they just want to be part of it. That makes me sad.
Agreed. I mean, I think that this is part of look, there's a bigger question here about as far as the degradation of the academy. I think that, what we're seeing now under the Trump administration as far as taking Harvard to task. Harvard is emblematic of other institutions around the country. Mm-hmm. But this is not a matter of free speech. To my mind, this is a matter of national security. Period. I mean, when you look at the data and when you look at a place like Harvard, which 27 to 29% of Harvard's undergrad student body is foreign. Columbia has 58%. I mean, there's a larger question about, is the American university still the American university when individuals are coming from overseas paying full rides, and the universities are turning a blind eye because they're willing to take in tuition. And so what about the slots, and spaces for American students? I mean, there has to be a question about that as well.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that they are coming in and they are causing problems, the minute that they start saying death to America or death to a certain part of our population, they should be removed by the university themselves. But like you said, it's greed. It's all it is. So Bibi is right, and we actually had the national news say that the Palestinians, which aren't even a thing, the people who call themselves Palestinians, they say, we don't have a network of tunnels. That's a lie. I'm like, are you serious? I've actually seen them on video where they pop out like whack-a-mole. So we can't believe anything we hear anymore either. I've got 30 seconds. What do you want to say in closing, Asaf?
You're absolutely right. I mean, this is the propaganda which has replaced scholarship, and this is what the media has been repeating fallaciously, and that's all part of their strategy. That needs to stop. There has to be serious consequences and understanding, about what's going on the ground, and we need to fight this because Israel's enemies are America's enemies. If we don't stop them there, they're coming home.
Yep, that's why NPR and PBS are in trouble right now, and they're going to sue Donald Trump. Who isn't suing Donald Trump? Get in line. Asaf Romorowski, PhD, Executive Director, Scholars for Peace in the Middle East. Where do they go to read up more about what you do?
Scholars for Peace in the Middle East. The website is spme.org.
spme.org. Thank you, Asaf. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.